Welcome into a little bit of an instant reaction, instant recap of Syracuse football wins inside the JMA Wireless Dome on week one. Fran Brown's debut as head coach, Kyle McCord's debut under center for the Orange. Syracuse wins it 38-22. This was a game that got off to a little bit of a slow start. I'm Ashley Wenskoski. I have Rachel Culver here alongside me, off the producer mic here at the big table. We're so excited to see it. Rachel, you and I were both inside the Dome today. Obviously a big win week one for Syracuse, but I think it was a slower start than many Orange fans were anticipating.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even in our predictions last week, we had some big numbers that we didn't quite see reflected in the final score today. But yeah, slow start in the first quarter. We saw Ohio University come out and put up those first points and have Syracuse exit the first quarter with nothing. And then second quarter, you started to see it kind of come alive, but it was really the second half where things got going for the offense and defense.
Yeah, whether it was a case of the jitters for Kyle McCord, first game at Syracuse, he goes with a 3-and-out on Syracuse's first drive on offense. Ohio drives down the field twice, 2 separate field goals, so all of a sudden Syracuse finds themselves in a 6-0 deficit, but then this offense took control. McCord threw for a career-high 354 yards, 4 TDs, and I think what stuck out to me about this offense was something we've been talking about all camp long, the amount of weapons that he has in the receivers room. He found 8 different receivers to complete a pass, and of course, we had a breakout star of this game, and his name was Trevor Pena.
Yeah, career game for Trevor Pena. Yeah. We saw his first completion, I think, went to Zede Haynes. We saw him go to Trevor, obviously, a lot. But another incredible play that we saw that came in the second half was that Jackson Meeks catch.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. That one got the Loud House roaring for sure.
Yeah, Meeks was so impressive there. Pena tallied 3 touchdowns, 2 through the air, 1 on the ground, almost 100 yards total. I think he's a guy that Orange fans didn't really know what to expect from him this year. Obviously, he was held out almost all of last season due to injury. So he's definitely could be a huge factor on this offense. And of course, we saw the return of Arande Gadsden as well, and he got in for that first touchdown in the first quarter, I should say, to make it 7-6 Syracuse. I think that's when fans kind of breathed a sigh of relief.
Yeah, definitely not how you wanted to see it start, but also like it's kind of poetic that it's how it started because all of the jitters and all of the energy that we had going into this, like of course something like that would happen, but you just gotta sit, you gotta breathe, and let it happen. Trevor Pena was so impressive. Career day for him, obviously, but also like it was so interesting hearing from him in the press conference after the game because he spent so much time just working on the little things, and he really hammered home the little things. He talked about how he really tried to improve his sleep schedule and drink more water and just do those things outside of football that you need to just live a healthy lifestyle, and I think that really translated today on the field.
Yeah, I think we saw Pena kind of become a guy, whether or not this carries on throughout the season or not, that I think has more of a connection with Kyle McCord and has built more of that connection than maybe we anticipated.
Yeah, and even Brown said in kind of response to that, he was like, they approach the game of football very similarly.
Yes.
Like they kind of have similar mentalities when it comes to football and how they study it, so it makes sense that they kind of have that trust in one another early.
Yes. Syracuse also got a lot of guys involved on the ground. You had, of course, LaQuint Allen in there. We saw Yasin Willis come just short of a touchdown. He kind of had 3 tries, and then Pena ended up getting the rushing touchdown in the second half. We also saw a little bit of Will Nixon, but we saw a LaQuint Allen one-handed catch. LaQuint did not have a rushing touchdown, but he did have a receiving touchdown.
Yeah. And if you're going to have a one-handed catch, why not have it be in the end zone?
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Perfect spot for it.
Right.
So LaQuint looked great. Now that was the offense. I would say I felt pretty comfortable after the slow start about how this offense was cooking. Kyle McCord did play the entire game. We didn't get that luxury of getting to see one of the second, third string quarterbacks like we thought we might have against an opponent like Ohio. But you know what I would say? This was a game to me that is true of a team under a first-year head coach, a completely new-look team, a new quarterback, a new head coach, a new coaching staff. This is a week one game that I know a lot of Orange fans are not going to be thrilled by the margin of win, right? 38-22. We were hoping it would be a little more than that against a MAC team like Ohio. I think it's just what you get this was a team playing their first game of football together.
Absolutely, and you saw the kinks, especially in like the run defense, I'd say.
Yes.
Ohio University's running back, Anthony Tyus III, I believe.
Yes.
He had quite a few yards today. I don't know exactly how many, but he definitely was able to penetrate that defense. And you even saw Parker, the quarterback.
Parker Navarro,
he was scrambling quite a bit. So I think that's one of the big things that this program is going to address in the coming week. But, yeah, super impressed across the board. That would be my one kind of hold up. But that 2-minute drill to end the first half, I can't even call it a 2-minute drill. That was literally 50 seconds.
49 seconds, Syracuse. They said it. They've said it all camp that they practiced the 2-minute drill a ton. They feel very confident in that. And we saw the results of that out there today. They were able to score. I would agree with you. The offense, I would say, is about what we're anticipating. Definitely, looks great under Kyle McCord. So refreshing to have a quarterback that not only is so dangerous in the passing game, but also Syracuse was converting on third down, which is just something that we saw them struggle with last year's and in years prior. Like you mentioned, an area of concern, definitely the defense, especially the run defense. Syracuse allowed 255 rushing yards to Ohio. I would say Fran Brown identified that in his post-game press conference. He said if there is a position group that he's a bit more unhappy with, it's definitely the defensive line, and he let them know that. He just said they weren't hitting. They weren't practicing like they practiced. They just weren't being as aggressive as they should have been. So definitely going to have to see Syracuse clean up that run game ahead of a team like Georgia Tech next week in week 2. And we saw Georgia Tech with their big week 0 win over Florida State. That's how they won it, was that ground attack.
And when all their whole point with the defense, we saw Marlo Wax go down. And then in the post-game press conference, we learned from Fran that could be a few weeks. So that's a huge hit to this defense. This is a huge hit to this team as a leader coming down, and you hate to see that in the first game. But wishing him the best. Hope that's a speedy recovery and nothing worse than what we think it might be. But
yeah, Marlo, of course, their tackles leader the last couple seasons, really just the leader, the heart and soul of this defense. So I would argue if there's one guy you didn't want to see go down today, it might have been Marlo Wax. We saw him leave the field kind of with help walking off the field. He then left the field on crutches, returned in a boot in his street clothes on the sidelines, and Fran Brown said, quote, could be a few weeks. So we will see what happens there. We're obviously hoping for a speedy recovery for Marlo, because I think we saw today that this defense under Elijah Robinson maybe isn't as locked down as we might have thought. Now, of course, are they going to make adjustments based on what happened today? Absolutely. I expect to see an improved run defense and an improved focus on stopping the run next week, especially because they know that that's what Georgia Tech brings to the table.
I will say, even with our concerns with the defense, what really matters is in the red zone. And in the red zone, they were really good. They got pushed down the field for sure. There was definitely some moments where you're like, okay, we are moving slowly and we're getting closer to the end zone. But once we got to the end zone, it usually resulted in a field goal. So that was a positive in my eyes, too.
They were locked down in the red zone for sure. Another area just as a whole, right? This was Fran Brown's first game as a head coach at any level, anywhere. He, of course, coming over in the offseason as a defensive backs coach at Georgia. Syracuse had 6 penalties today, and obviously that's an area that I think Orange fans are ready to see get cleaned up after they were top 10
subject.
Right, touchy subject. They've been top 10 in the country in that area in a bad way the last few years. So 6 penalties. Ohio only had 1. Some of them were costly. Some of those holding penalties, especially towards the end of the first half, I believe it was, cost them yardage and weren't great. But penalties aside, I will say I thought Fran Brown's clock management was really good for a guy coaching his first game of football as a head coach. We saw at the end of the first half when Syracuse really needed time, he had all 3 of his timeouts left in that kind of last minute and a half, 2 minutes of the game, and I think that was an area that he really excelled.
Yeah, exactly where he needed him. I think it's easy for us to forget that he is a first-year head coach just because of the way he carries himself and just soundbite machine. He has so much poise and humility and all of the things that you want out of a guy that's been leading forever. But he's just starting this off, and I think his team's also very understanding and helping him through that process too.
Absolutely. He said he was nervous, he was scared before he ran out of that tunnel. It all kind of hit him. I think the last 3 or so days he said he was nervous, but then he just saw one of his little league, he said, football coaches in the crowd, and he said, all right, let's go play ball.
That provided some ease. I hope he gets some sleep tonight.
I hope Fran Brown gets some sleep tonight. That's all we got for you guys for now, other than the quote of the week, banger quote from Fran Brown, which was, give Ryan Day, by the way, a bottle of champagne for giving us Kyle McCord. That's great stuff. That's all we have for you. Syracuse wins it 38-22. The Orange get a Week 1 win, and they welcome Georgia Tech to town next week. That is a noon kick at the Dome next Saturday. I believe it is September 7th. So we will see you guys then. We will see you guys for our weekly episode this week of the Orange Zone podcast. Hoping to have running back James Mungro rejoin us for this season and join us this week. So thanks so much for watching. We will see you back here later this week.
Bye.